Hi everyone, and welcome to Yoga with Wade today. This morning we'll be working on our hips, on our arm balances, and our flying pigeon pose, building up that strength and core and flexibility that we need to really express ourselves in the pose and in the practice throughout each morning as we develop our practice together. We'll begin at the top of our mat, standing tall, pushing our heels and the balls of our feet down to the mat as the feet grow parallel to one another. We lift up through the sides of the legs, lengthening the side body, pulling the shoulders down onto the back, and lifting up through the top of the head. Noticing your diaphragm rising and falling with each breath. You can take your hands and place them on your ribs. And notice your floating ribs at the bottom and tuck them into the core muscles. Feel everything in here strong and solid. And feel that diaphragm opening up for the air, creating this vacuum to pull the energy of oxygen into the body. And feel that releasing with each exhale. Maintaining awareness of the breath and the diaphragm as we warm up with our sun salutations. Inhaling to reach up, growing tall, and bringing our hands down to our hearts, exhaling all the way. You can inhale, looking up, curving the back, and bow a little bit deeper. Step, jump, and float back into our plank. Finding a solid plank pose, hugging the hands into the feet and pulling the mat between your hands and feet. As we very slowly keep our flat back and lower down. Trying a 3 count to lower down, hovering just an inch above the mat. Flipping the toes, coming through into our cobra. Keeping the arms slightly bent as we pull the heart forwards. And pushing back into our downward facing dog. We'll take about 5 breaths here. Maybe you can look up, maybe you can look down at your belly button. Let's see how that feels. Raising the tailbone above us. Last breath. Weight into the hands, step, float, or jump to the top of the mat. Inhaling to look up. And exhaling to bow. And rising up. Growing tall, bringing our hands to the heart. We'll do our sun salutation B. Inhaling, reaching up, growing tall, keeping those floating ribs pulled into the core, maintaining that while we fold forwards. Bending the knees, finding a chair pose. Squatting a little bit down. Maybe trying our Ardha Uttanasana, half chair. We bring our hands forwards, shoulders behind the ears, straightening the arms, sinking into the hips just a little bit deeper, and folding forwards. Stepping, floating, or jumping back. Finding our plank. Lowering down, chaturanga. Flipping the toes, finding our cobra, and back into downward facing dog. We're going to plant the left foot flat, raise the right foot up behind us, point the toe, and step that right foot forward between the hands. Coming up into our warrior one pose, squeezing the palms overhead. Keeping that knee just above the heel. The knee is tracking over the second toe, so you can still see your big toe. Trying to square the shoulders, square the hips, squeeze the feet together. Let's bring our hands to our heart. Noticing our core, using the core to pull everything in. Maintaining these ribs in, keeping that strong as we fold forwards into our chaturanga. And we're going to lower down very, very slowly, slower than before. Finding our balance at each moment in between. Pulling up into our cobra. Reaching the top of the head for the heels behind us. Maybe taking an optional up dog. And rolling over into our downward facing dog. Lifting the tailbone up above us. Maybe you can look at your belly button. Maybe you just reach those hands as high overhead as you can. Plant the right foot flat, lift the left foot up, point the toe, and step that left foot forward between the hands. Coming up into our warrior one on the side. Squeezing the feet together, squeezing the hands together. Noticing the diaphragm as it opens up to fill the entire mid-body with air. Deep, long breaths. Noticing how it feels just to be here. And we'll fold our hands down to frame the foot. Stepping back. We'll find our chaturanga. Let this be the slowest chaturanga yet. How slowly can you move? How long can you hover an inch above the mat? Sticking with it, noticing how the breath feels. Maybe pulling through into your cobra if you're not already. If you have, you can take the moment for the up dog. Pulling the heart up and forward. And looking up, feeling the back bend. And rolling over the toes back down to our downward facing dog. Reaching those fingers out as far above us as we can. Reaching through the side bodies. All the way out through the fingertips. Feeling the weight between all four limbs, 2 hands, 2 feet, pulling everything in with the core, testing the weight onto the feet, testing the weight onto the hands, bending the knees, step, jump, or float, finding our forward fold. We can inhale to look up with our flat back. Bending the knees, finding our chair pose, balancing the hips. Trying to keep our feet close together and parallel as we can. Keeping those floating ribs in check. Filling up the diaphragm with air as we bring our hands to our heart. We'll cross our left elbow over to the right, another prayer twist. A little classic lower back release as we exhale and open up. Bringing our hands back to heart, floating back up to center. Our hips get a little bounce here. And rotating from the core, let's bring the right elbow over to the left. And exhale into the twist. Releasing the arms out long. And coming back to center. Balancing our hips in our chair. And we'll grow tall. Bringing our hands to our heart. Taking a moment to notice how we're breathing, how the breath might have changed through the course of the warm-up. Noticing if you are warm or not. I usually do about 5 sun salutations of each version every morning. So feel free to pause it and continue your sun salutation practice before we continue on to a few other challenging poses we're developing towards today. find our weight on the left foot. Raise the right knee into the chest. Bring our arms up tall, testing our balance. Let's keep the foot out in front of us, pointing the toe. How straight can you get that leg? How tall can you stand? We'll swing this foot out behind us to find our warrior 3 pose. Pointing the toe behind you, lifting up through the chest and through the back heel. Testing the balance. Bring our arms out into the airplane. Step that back foot back. We'll bind the hands behind the back, opening the heart and bowing from the heart, folding forwards into the bound warrior pose. Feeling those shoulders release, breathing into the chest, into the shoulders, into the back. Pressing that leg against the shoulder and the shoulder against the leg as you try to square your pelvis and your shoulders to the front of the mat. Releasing the hands down to frame the foot. And we'll lift the back foot up into a standing split. Testing our balance here. Maybe pushing out through the heel this time. Seeing if you can activate the back of the leg. Lifting it as high as you can. We're going to bring our hands out into our airplane. And try to bring that knee into our standing balance, into our heart. Pointing the toe, cane out. Bringing our feet back together. Testing the balance. Noticing as the mind becomes calm, when all of our intention and intention is focused on everything that it takes to lift the left knee into the chest. Point the toe, finding the stability and the balance in the pose. Noticing if this leg, this side is any different than the other side. Just being aware. Let's bring that leg out behind us. Finding our warrior 3. Taking any modifications you might need to find your balance on this side. If you need a wall, that's always fine. Bring the arms out into our airplane. Lifting the heart. And bring the back foot down to the mat. Our hands come behind the back. We'll bind on the opposite finger on top. Opening the heart and bowing forwards into the bound warrior pose. Trying to keep the shoulders square. Maybe widening your stance a little bit if you need to keep the shoulder on the inside of the knee. And engaging the leg into the side body and the side body into the leg. And working those back leg muscles. Squeezing the feet together. Releasing our hands down to frame that front foot. Let's put our weight into the front foot and lift the back foot up into our standing split. Lifting that foot as high as you can. Again, pointing out through the heel, seeing if you can activate the back of that leg. Let's see if we can bring ourselves into our standing balance here. Pointing the toe, sticking it out. Bringing our feet back together. Salute. Let's fold forwards. Working our way back into our plank pose. However you would like to get there. Lowering down and meeting me in downward facing dog.
our dog, let's raise the right foot out behind us. Placing the weight on the left foot and the right hand. And see if you can raise the left hand out above us. Testing your balance, seeing how high you can get that hand and that foot. Our two-legged dog. Bring our feet and hands back together. Let's try the other side. Left foot raises up. Right hand above us. How high can you get that hand and that foot? Keeping that tailbone raised. Keeping the whole left side of the body still in the dog above us and the right side in dog behind us. As you lift the left hand and lift the right foot. We'll bring our hands and our feet back together. We're going to raise the right foot out behind us. And this time place the ankle behind the left wrist. Finding our pigeon pose. Trying to bring the front of the leg parallel to the mat in front of us. Maybe wiggling that back foot back. As we bring our hands and forearms down to the mat. We'll take a moment in our sleepy pigeon. Releasing into the hip. The hips are something that you can't push yourself into. You have to relax and melt into open hips. So take this moment just to feel yourself coming a little more still, a little more open with every exhale, sinking the hips a little deeper to the mat, trying to keep them square. Come up to our lifted pigeon, bringing the hands to our heart, seeing how it feels just to lift up as high as we can through the top of the head. Bring the hands down, tuck the toes behind us, and you can either lift back into a dog, or if you're like me, you jump switch. Bring the right foot out behind us. The left leg parallel to the top of the mat, or as close as you can get it to. It's usually not going to be totally parallel. Let's come on to our forearms and let ourselves melt, sinking a little bit deeper with every exhale. Feeling how it feels to be here. Noticing yourself melting into the mat. Noticing your hips opening by themselves, absolutely effortlessly under the weight of your own body. When you feel open, we can lift ourselves up. Finding our lifted pigeon, squaring those hips, opening the heart. Shoulders come down to the hips and hips rise up to the shoulders as you lift the top of the head. Holding here, feeling those legs fire up, feeling that core fire up, keeping these floating ribs in. Feeling how that feels. From here, we come back to our hands and step back into our downward facing dog. Lifting the tailbone as high as we can, put as much weight into our hands. After our third breath, we can step, hop, or float to the top of the mat. Finding our forward fold, releasing the neck. Let's place our weight into our hands. Keep an engaged forward fold. Maybe trying a block, or whatever you need to do to put your weight as much in the hands as you have in the feet here. Feeling the tailbone lift. And we'll release that. Looking up, flat back, monkey pose. Ardha Uttanasana. Folding. And then we'll hinge from the hips as we rise up, growing tall.
Bringing our hands to our heart from the top of the mat. Place our weight evenly onto that left foot as we raise our right knee up, finding standing balance. We can hug the knee into lifting it up, maybe placing our hands beneath the side of the foot, seeing how high can you lift that heel. We'll place that heel onto the inside of the thigh. I'll turn this way so you can see me. You want the heel as close to the hip as you can, almost like a half lotus. And then we'll fold forwards. And we can hold here for a few moments, exhaling and bowing. Maybe coming up onto the fingertips to create some length. And then bowing a little bit deeper. See if you can wiggle those toes around to the outside of that shoulder. See if you can find that heel into the armpit as you bend that knee and squat just a little bit. And when you do, see if you can place on this side, keeping this leg into that back tricep. And when you do, you can make a little shelf where the weight goes onto that right leg, and you can lift the left leg up. This is our flying pigeon pose. I'm going to try it from this side so you can see how it looks. Here we have, from our standing, folding half lotus, you hook the toe along the side, you create this shelf with the leg, you bend the arms, you bend the front knee, and take the weight onto the hands, kicking that foot out behind us. How high can you lift the heart and the chest? Holding in our flying pigeon and bringing that toe back down to the ground. We'll step back into our downward facing dog, paddling out our feet, and walk, step, or hop forwards. Finding our way back to the top of the mat. Try that again. We'll walk, step, or jump forwards to the top of the mat. Finding the forward fold. Standing tall. Finding our weight on the opposite foot. This time maybe raising the right knee. Cut that one. Stepping back into our downward facing dog. Place our weight into the hands and hop, step, or float forwards. Rising up tall. Finding our standing balance. Our weight onto the opposite foot. And bring the left knee into the chest. Pointing the toe. Placing the weight behind the outside of the foot as we lift that heel as high as we can. And place the heel onto that front of the right hip. And then fold forwards. So here you can see how I got my toe and my foot here. And I want to try to hook the back of the shoulder around that toe, and you wrap the toe around the shoulder. And we'll find this place where the leg becomes a shelf and the weight can come onto the hands, you can come onto your back toe, and lift that back foot up and off the mat. Holding here, straightening the arms a little bit, straightening that back leg. How high can you go? Flying pigeon pose. We'll step back. Finding our way back into our downward facing dog. Pedaling up the feet. This time we'll place the left hip down to the mat. And we'll step the right hip inwards, finding our fire log pose, our double pigeon. So we have the left heel on the leg. We feel this hip opening in both ways. Our legs are stacked. We make this nice little triangle. We can sit tall and maybe bow. Feeling those hips release. Flipping our feet
This time cradling the left foot and placing the foot on top of the other leg, making this triangle here between the legs and the hips. Sitting tall and maybe bowing. Finding whatever version of the pose works for you in your practice. And we'll take this moment, finding whatever seated meditation posture you prefer. Finding the breath and the breath energy, feeling that oxygen flowing into our lungs and nourishing our heart. Notice the subtlety of the sensations on the skin. Notice how it really feels like to be alive today. And experience that in full awareness with all the joy and beauty in this graceful moment as we sit here fulfilling everything that we need to be doing in this moment, bringing ourselves, our minds, and our bodies back into balance together, feeling yourself whole and connected, and finding that sense of peace within us and carrying that with us throughout the rest of our day. Thank you for joining us today. The love and light in me honors the love and light in each of you. Namaste.